All right, what's up, everybody? Look, I want to give you an update on Bitcoin because in the last video, I kind of hinted at where I thought its price could go to the downside, but it was very brief. And since its price is currently looking a little bit rough, I want you to at least be prepared for what the downside could look like and how you could take advantage of it. So with that said, let's not waste any more time at all, and let's get straight into the video. So looking at Bitcoin's price, currently we are sitting at $40,600. Now, looking at that, of course, what we know is this is a key level of support, and it seems as if Bitcoin's price is giving a very strong attempt to hold this level. Now, if this level is held, obviously we are still in a pretty rough position because at that given point, even if we bounce, for example, we're now starting to enter into, head and shoulder zone and things like this, right? I'm sure you can see this here. And obviously, if we hold this level of support, now we put ourselves in a weird position in which the pull to the downside is almost guaranteed. Not 100% guaranteed, but pretty damn close to 100% guaranteed, right? And so at this given point, I think it's probably a good idea to start preparing for a possible move to the downside because that seems to be the most likely scenario, whether we bounce here or whether we don't bounce here, okay? So with that in mind, where can we go? So I'm still looking at Bitcoin from a macro ascending structural perspective. Now, again, I talked about this in the last video, but I want to just really touch on it a little bit more and give more examples. So looking at this, of course, what we can see is that Bitcoin has pretty strongly been following this ascending structure since realistically 2022. I mean, over a year and a half now. We were putting in these highs. We put in 3 touches to the upside, confirms true resistance. 3 touches to the bottom side, actually 4 here, confirms true support. That's a true structure, right? And it's a true structure with true liquidity. And as we have these ascending structures in the world of crypto, you and I know there's an 80 to 90% chance that these ascending structures break to the downside. It's just almost always what they do. And if they don't break to the downside, if it takes that 10 to 20% chance and it breaks to the upside, the likelihood of it holding to the upside is less than 50%, right? And so being able to break to the upside, hold to the upside, and continue to the upside is extremely rare, right? And considering the fact that we know this resistance that Bitcoin's at, right? I talked to you all in the last video about the fact that we are sitting on that macro Fibonacci level. The fact that we're at resistance here, knowing how hard it is going to be for us to start working our way upwards, it feels to me like it's again likely that we do interact with this ascending structure and probably re-enter back into it. So there's 3 key levels of support you need to be on the watch out for, okay? If each one is lost, the next one becomes the target. And so if that means you want to open up a short trade, feel free to. I think opening up short trades at this part of the market is really, really risky because the likelihood is here over the macro sense, we're going to continue upwards. That's like opening up long trades in the bear market. It's just the likelihood of you winning over the course of a couple days or weeks is just very low, and you never really know what's going to happen. But if you want to try that, you can try that. Personally speaking, what I'm going to be doing is using these key levels of support as dollar cost average in levels because any of them could serve as the level of support that then does allow Bitcoin's price to continue to the upside. You can never just be sure which one it is, okay? So this is how I'm going to go about it. So I'm looking at this thing, as I mentioned before, as an ascending structure perspective. Now, this ascending structure is actually going to try, even when we pull back to it, it's going to try to bounce the price upwards. I don't think it's going to have success, and I don't think that just because the likelihood of it having success is so small, then even if we do that, man, then we're running into a double top resistance here in which we then could easily get forced down. So again, the odds of us not entering back into this ascending structure are very low, in my opinion, right? And I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, good. I hold a lot of Bitcoin, but it's just my overall sentiment is just that I think a pullback is likely, right? And so because of that, the touch of support here is extremely likely. At that given point, I would be doing a small dollar cost average because it is support and I'm going to stick to that strategy. But at the end of the day, I'm not all that confident that that level holds. Now, if that level doesn't hold, and its price continues downward, the next level of support you need to be on the lookout for is your ascending level of support here, okay? This ascending level of support here. That's where we will generally go. You lose support, you break back into the ascending structure, and you retest the bottom side. Currently, I would assume that's anywhere between like $35,000 and $37,000, somewhere right here, but there's no way of knowing how fast this thing drops. If it drops like a fly, that's $32,000. If it goes a little bit sideways until like, let's call it until roughly March, that's $33,000. If it takes a lot longer, close to the halving, that's $36,000, right? And at any given point, obviously, news about any ETFs or the halving or any catalyst like that could send this thing out of here, and we may not even come to the bottom side, but it's just generally what happens. And then say the final level of support, just hypothetically, for some reason, this market really, really, really pulls back. I'm looking around $28,000 as my bottom side support, and that's where I would be doing my biggest dollar cost average. So a little bit of a DCA here, bit of a bigger one here towards the bottom side, downside and a really big one here because I'm not sure that we would be able to. I don't think we're losing $28,000 that close to a Bitcoin halving. It's possible. I just don't think it's going to happen, especially considering we have this true liquidity zone here right around this previous point of support, and you have your macro 618786 Fibonacci support level here as well. I just don't think we're going further down than that, okay? So this is the kind of outlook that I have: small DCA, medium DCA, bigger DCA. Some people like to open up long trades on each one of these, open up one long trade very small here, add to it if we get lower here, add to it if we get lower here, and add more and more to it so that when that eventual bounce does come, they are really big into the profit. But obviously you're taking a huge risk of blowing your account. You're also taking a huge risk of paying a lot of fees and funding. And so because of that, I'm not a huge fan of that approach, but if that's the approach you want to take, that's the approach you can take. Now, I do personally do all of my trades over on Margex. You can trade with 5x to up to 100x leverage over on Bitcoin. The fees for Bitcoin are also extremely good. You also don't need to KYC, meaning you don't need to give them any of your personal information. You don't need to use a VPN from anywhere in the world. You can simply just deposit and start trading. Using the leverage is extremely easy. You can just use the sliding scale there. You can take profits. You can set stop losses. You can do all of these things over on Margex, and you get a couple $100 in a sign-up bonus when you do use my link down below. So make sure you go check that out if that is something that you're interested in. Again, it's down there for you. But overall, this is my strategy, and this is the way that I'm going about it. And I think that from a macro sense, this is very healthy, and I kind of do hope this happens. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I do hope this happens. The reason being is because we've seen it play out before, and we've seen it play out well before. I mean, look back at the beginning of the last bull market. Okay, we can see here that we were in the bull market, entered into the bear market, got our final capitulation, worked our way up all the way to that 618 to 786 Fibonacci zone that we know of there. We then saw the price come back down to this 618 to 786 zone. Of course, this was the pandemic, so I don't really look at this. I would just look at this maybe as something like this. What you can see is that we bounced off of this 618 to 786 box and then continued to the upside after this pullback was needed, going into the year of the halving and going up closer to the halving, right? And that's very similar to what we're seeing play out here if we do get this pullback and if we do get that bit of a meltdown. And so if this is what happens, I am going to be doing huge buys around these levels because, again, in my opinion, that could set us up perfectly to continue upwards either right before or right around and after the halving. And so again, none of this may play out, right? And we may just see Bitcoin's price hold up completely. Let me go all the way back. We may see Bitcoin's price hold up completely and then just continue upwards. Okay, great. I'm not really, that's the least likely scenario here. And I would say there's like a 1 in 8 maybe chance that happens, but obviously it's a possibility, and if that does happen, I'll update you. But I'm going to cover the most likely scenario so that you're prepared for that pullback. You're not freaked out by it, and you have a strategy to implement. So if you do enjoy these videos and you want to see more in terms of what I'm buying, my portfolios, what I'm selling, exclusive content, access to me, early video access, daily technical analysis, and much more, go down to the Patreon link down below. It's my personal Patreon, and you can get access to all of that there. But with that in mind, that is about it for today's video. I hope you, of course, do enjoy these Bitcoin updates. I'm going to do them as much as I possibly can. So press subscribe if you do, and I will see you all next time. Peace out, everybody.